Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are wearing the same shirt.
No, mine's blue.
Okay, mine's almost blue. So we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews, and today we're talking about Tribes of the Wind.
But before we talk about that, we just want to ask that you subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. We have a lot of really fun stuff happening, some interviews coming out, top 10s coming out, and it's going to be a really fun year. So just make sure that you subscribe. Okay, Tribes of the Wind is designed by Walking Tome. It is published by
Boite de Jeu.
Thank you.
Boite de Jeu.
And it has Vincent Dutray art.
All right, so in this game, it's basically in the distant future, or maybe not so distant, who knows, but basically all of our civilization has been kind of wiped out by all this pollution, this toxic pollution, and all these kind of pockets of civilization have survived. They are the Tribes of the Wind. And basically, it is their job, our job as players, to kind of repopulate the world with forests, living in these little villages, trying to remake the world livable again. Let me give you a quick overview of how to play. All right, so this is going to be our main starting setup that's in the middle of the table. All right, so these are going to be the forests that we are going to be drafting and adding into our own personal player boards. These are going to be the action cards that kind of run the whole game. Those are going to be very important. We'll be talking about those a lot as the explanation goes on. And over here we have the village cards. These are basically going to be special abilities and or points opportunities that we're going to get the more villages that we build. They're kind of cut in half between a left scoring side and then a special ability side. You're going to get either one or the other whenever you build a village. Those are just going to be some extra things that you can earn. But this middle row of cards here, that's going to be extremely important. Basically, the majority of your turns in this game are going to be playing a card from your hand and then drawing a new card from the row. These are all the backs of the cards. The backs of the cards tell you what kind of action you're going to get, but not exactly what the action is. Alright, so a big component of this game is what your neighbor's cards are. So you're not actually going to see your neighbor's fronts of your cards, however you do get to see what the backs of them are because they're in these nice little card holders. They can see what's on the backs of our cards, but only we can see the front, and likewise, we can only see the backs of their cards, only they can see the front of their own cards. At the top left corner of each card, it's going to tell you what kind of card itself is, but then the bottom half of the card tells you what it does. The left part of the card tells you the parameters, and the right part of the card gives you the benefit. This particular one says, for every neighbor that you have less fire cards than, you're going to get either a benefit or an even stronger benefit. So for instance, this one says, if we have less fire cards than our opponents, in this case we don't. This is a bad card to play. That's a bad example. But let's go to this one over here. This one over here says, we ourselves, if we have 2 of those leaf cards or 3 of those leaf cards, we're going to get either this benefit or this benefit. And then the bottom benefit's always going to be a little bit stronger. So there's 4 kinds of cards in the game, and I want to kind of go over those with you. The red cards are almost always about getting rid of pollution. And I'll show you our boards in a little bit, but we start with a whole bunch of pollution, and we're going to get even more. So almost all the red cards are going to have to do with pollution. We have to get rid of that first before we can do anything else. We're also going to need a whole lot of water. Water is what we're going to need to grow our forests. So blue cards are almost always going to give us some kind of a water symbol. Green cards are going to be how we're going to be placing our tiles. It costs a certain amount of water based off whatever that number is inside that. If we meet that parameter, we have to pay that much water in order to get a tile and place it on our board. But then also, we need to populate our villages in order to populate our forests in order to build villages, and that's where these yellow cards come into play. They allowed us to use our the yellow symbol there. That is our wind riders. Those are our guys who are basically going to be building the villages and kind of running the whole show. That all makes sense a little bit later on once I show you our personal player boards, but I just wanted to show you that there are 4 different kinds of cards. They all interact with the cards that we ourselves possess, and plus what our neighbors possess as well. So there's a whole bunch of different symbols, but they're all laid out pretty nicely in the rulebook. Alright, now we're onto our personal player boards. This is kind of where it's all going to come together and make a little bit more sense. There are 5 different player boards. They all have different characters on them, and they have a certain deck associated with them as well. That's going to give you some special abilities once you've earned them. There's also kind of a different setup for all of them as well. They're all a little bit different. We have a starting tile, and that's going to be where we build off of. It's also going to tell us some starting resources that we start off with, and then we all have our red. That is all the pollution that we're going to try to get rid of. You cannot put a tile down on the board until that particular location has been cleared of all pollution. Our yellow characters over here, those are our wind riders. Those are going to be the ones that populate the villages. We have our green villages up here. Those are going to be what we place down in order to earn those village cards once we've populated them. We also have our shrines, our temples over here. Those we're going to be able to place as our turn once we discard a few cards, and they're going to give us some special abilities as well. So let's go through a few sample turns. Let's say we were able to play this card. We had a whole bunch more fire cards than our opponents. We were able to get rid of 3 of the pollution. What we're going to do is we're going to choose 3 pollution on the board and take it off. So maybe we go 1, 2, and 3. That's our turn. We're going to draw a new card. That's our entire turn. Maybe we need some more water in order to play our tiles, so we might play a water card next. This one says if we had 2 fire cards, which sure we do, because this is an example, right? We can either move 5 times, or we can get 5 water. Let's just go ahead and take 5 water. Let's go ahead and add it to our supply. And now let's build a tile. Green cards are usually what gives us tiles. Here's a green card. This one says if we have 1 of each color in our hand, we can build a tile for 4 water. Or we can take 5 water. Let's go ahead and take one of the tiles that's out in our row there. Let's pay our 4 water. Let's pay 5 and get 1 back. And we can place that adjacent to our starting tile. Now let's go ahead and move some of our Wind Riders onto that tile so we can eventually build a village. We've got a yellow card here, which usually involves moving our Wind Riders. This one says if we have less water than our opponents, if we have less water than one of our opponents, we can move 4 times. Or if we have less water than both of our opponents, we can either get 6 or get some water as well. That's kind of a hybrid action. Let's take 6 move actions and see what that looks like. The starting location over here, this is basically kind of the headquarters, if you will, that is adjacent to the starting tile. But everything else has to move adjacently. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so now we have a tile that's completely full. It doesn't happen automatically, but now, on our turn, as an action, instead of playing a card, what we can do is we can return the people that fill up the spaces to the supply, and now we can flip this tile over. What that means is we can put a village on it. There are some symbols along the bottom of this tile that's going to give you some bonus building actions. This is basically a wind turbine. Whenever you place a tile, you have to add pollution to the adjacent spots on the board, but because this is a wind turbine spot, you don't have to for this one. So we saved ourselves a little bit of pollution, which is going to save ourselves actions later on. Also, there's this catapult action here on the bottom. This one says when you build that village, you get to take one of our Wind Riders and put it anywhere on the board. That's fantastic. But then also, there's this other action over here. This is basically kind of a teleporting spot. This is considered adjacent to any other spot that has that symbol, including the home headquarters itself. So by building that early, we're kind of giving ourselves an ability to get more guys out there quicker. Also, every time we build a village, you're able to draw one of these cards, those village cards we talked about. You're going to choose whether you want to use the left side or the right side. This left side says if you are able to build a kind of an L shape in any orientation that are all the same color, there's 3 colors by the way, there's the yellow, the purple, and the green. If you're able to do that by the end of the game, you're going to get 8 points. Or you can use it as an action. This particular one says do catapult action, which means, again, put somebody out on the board anywhere, plus take 2 waters. So whatever makes more sense for you at the time, that's going to be what you're going to do. And also, by the way, at the beginning of the game, we're also going to start with one of these, populating our board. So we kind of always have something we're driving towards, even at the beginning of the game. One last thing I want to talk about is we have our character deck over here. There are a couple of abilities that's going to be able to unlock those cards for us. This particular one says there's 5 different symbols in a row, 5 different colors of forests. If you are able to make an orthogonal path that includes all of those colors in that order, you're going to be able to unlock one of these cards. So for instance, we already started off nicely with yellow and purple. So we've got yellow, purple. If we're able to do, like, let's say purple, green, yellow, or whatever the case is, in order to finish off that color, we're able to unlock one of these cards. And similarly, this upper ability here, same thing. It says if we are able to unlock 8 whole tile spices without any pollution on them, we will be able to unlock another one of these cards. So we want to be kind of working towards those so that we can get some of these cards, because they're really fantastic abilities. Each character / board is different, but they're all going to be cool abilities. This one says every time you do one of the yellow movement actions, you can add 2 to that result. Or maybe you're able to trade in 2 water for a catapult action once per turn. Or every time you take a yellow card action, you're able to get 3 water. Or maybe every time you place a forest, you can get rid of some pollution. It's very strong. The last action I want to talk about is the shrine action. We have these temples over here. Basically, what you can do is you can discard 3 cards from your hand of anything you want them to be, and you can place one of these shrines out onto the board and take the associated action with it. This one says you can build a tile for 3 water, or you can get rid of some pollution, or move some stuff around, or get some water. Again, those are basically some ways of being able to get an action, maybe if you don't even have the right card for it. If you've been really struggling to get, let's say, blue cards and you need some water desperately, this is a good way to kind of do that. The game is going to end once one player has built all 5 of their villages, and at that point what we're going to do is we're all going to take one more turn and make sure we have all the equal number of turns, and then we're going to count up all of our points. Along the bottom of the board here we have all of our different scoring parameters. We have our points that are going to come from our cards. If you're the first person to trigger the end of the game, you're going to get an extra 5 points. Each village that you place is worth 3 points. The more shrines you place out, the better. The more tiles that you fill up with forests, the better. And of course, the less pollution you have, the better as well. You're going to add up all those points from all the different areas, and whoever has the most amount of points wins the game.
When Ryan first taught me this game and we were just playing, I had no idea what I was doing or why I was doing. It was fun. Let's just say I really enjoyed it, even though I wasn't even feeling well. But when we were playing the second time after we understood the rules and we actually wanted to understand what was going on, it's almost too much. Like, now that I knew what everything did, I wanted to do everything, and you can't do everything. Like, I wanted to build this stuff, but I didn't have enough of those droplets, but I didn't have the cards to give me the droplets, but I could build this thing, but I didn't want to build it there because I wanted to build it somewhere else for the points. Oh my gosh. There was just so many things that I wanted to do, and I couldn't do all of them.
I love how the cards were, there's basically 4 actions in the game. There's the red, yellow, green, and blue actions, essentially. And so on the backs of all those cards are those yellow, blue, green, and blue, red, whatever they are. The 4 things that I said earlier.
Green, yellow, blue, red.
It's the ones.
Yeah.
But it doesn't tell you what's on the other side. So you have really cool opportunities to be looking at other players' cards, and you look at the river of cards that you can draw from and see the backs of them. You don't know exactly what they do or what they're going to cost or whatever the case is, but you know what they can do, what kind of options you might have. And same thing with yourself, with your drawing cards. If you want to get water, you're probably going to draw a blue card, right? So I like how they told you roughly what they were, but not exactly what they were.
Yeah, the cards are the game.
Yeah.
You discard cards to build your little temples. You have to look at the symbols to have a certain amount of cards to do certain things, or have less, or have more. Or you want to draw the certain things so you can have more or less than your opponent. It's like the cards are the game. And all the cards have different requirements on them. So sometimes what you draw, you don't have what you need for a certain requirement, so you're trying to like dig through stuff to get other things, but you also don't want to waste your turn. So you're trying to find the cards that you can use that don't have the requirements. Sometimes you're holding on to a card because you're like, eventually people are going to have more red than me, and then they never do, and you're just like, I'm going to have to use this card anyway, even though I could have gotten awesome stuff if you would have just drawn the red cards. But it's so cool. The cards are the game. I really, if you've been following us for any length of time, you know that I love when cards are multi-use cards. And the fact that you can use them for the text, and then the other cards are also used for the symbol, and that you can discard them to build. Love it.
All right, so the forest tiles, as you build them, they're either going to have 2, 3, or 4 spots on them for your wind riders. And basically, the more spots that are available on that tile, the harder it is to build, in a sense, the better it is for you. There's basically all those symbols at the bottom. One that lets you catapult somebody wherever you need them to go, one that avoids dropping pollution, and some that give you kind of a teleportation spot. And so the harder it is to make, the more special abilities that tile is going to have. So I think it was a cool balance that you had to spend a little more time making it, but it was worth it. You had to spend more of those yellow actions moving guys around or whatever, but you're going to get some cool benefits as a result.
Overall, this is one of the best games I've played in a little while. Like I said, the first time we played it, I wasn't feeling well. I had like a massive headache, and I told Ryan, I was like, I know I have a really horrible headache, but I think I like this game. Like, through that, I was able to be like, wow, there's definitely something here. And it's just that perfect time frame for us. It's like, I think the box has like 20 minutes per player. After we learned the game, it was definitely under an hour for the 2 of us to play. And I just love that time period, how long it took us to play, how many good decisions there are, how smooth it was. This was just such a great game.
Yeah, I was blown away. As I was teaching, I was learning it cold from the rule book, and I just as things were kind of developing and revealing themselves, I was like, this is going to be good. This is pretty cool. And sure enough, at that first play, I was blown away. I think one of the cool strengths of this game is the subtle player interaction between the cards.
Yeah.
You see the cards backs that you need to kind of manipulate and have. Other people need to have more or less than you, or whatever the case is, and you're playing, manipulating that. Well, they don't even necessarily know that you are waiting for them to change something in their own queue. So I thought that was a really fun interaction between players. You can't mess with people's boards, per se, but it still provides interaction in that way. Man, this is a keeper. This is an absolute keeper. If you have not played Tribes of the Wind, I'd highly recommend it. This is a great game.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
You guys, thanks so much for watching. This game was provided to us by a publisher in exchange for a fair and honest review.
And if you want to see more stuff, check out over here to see something we think you might like.
And over here, we think that YouTube has picked out a great video for you you're going to love. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.